Ryan, thank you so much for coming on Fraud Busting. It's really an honor to have you here.
Thank you. Glad
Yeah.
to be here.
Well, I don't think any intro I could do would do you justice. So, why don't you let us know just like a little bit about who you are, and then we'll get into why you're here.
Okay. I'm 47 years old. I live in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Um, I have two beautiful children, a daughter and a son. And I am just back to the point of I feel like I'm fresh out of college again. I'm just trying to live life to the fullest and be happy every day. And the reason I'm here today is because from the years of 2007 through 2011, I was part of the accounting department for a local manufacturing company. And in that time, I misappropriated funds, which is the polite lawyer way of saying that I stole over $1.2 million. And I did it quite simply, for the most part, because I could. And I was feeling at the time a lot of stress, a lot of pressure due to some immaturity, and just the weight of the world was on my shoulders, and I used that as an excuse to justify some very terrible ideas. Um, and essentially, I took all these factors, which were half true, half false, um, magnified them in my own head, and I developed a great sense of self hate, and I developed a great sense of pity that all my friends and family were, um, I wasn't worthy of them, that I needed to make amends with them because of how I felt about myself. And I used the ability I had at work to take money from them to try and support a very materialistic lifestyle for both my friends and family.
Wow. Okay.
Um,
Okay. There's a lot there. We got to get into some of this.
all right.
So yeah, so much was there. Okay. So, um, 2007. So you got a job. You got a job at a manufacturing place, and were you like the lead accountant, chief accountant, or like CFO, or like what was the?
My official title was accountant, but I was the only accountant. I mean, I probably should have had the title of CFO.
Mhm.
Um, I oversaw one person in accounts payable. I'm sorry, one person in payroll, two people in accounts receivable, and three people in accounts payable. But one of the owner's wives was also the office manager. So even though I should have been overseeing those departments and on the books I oversaw them, she ran the show with regards to those three departments. Where I was the main person was I was the number one liaison between the company and the CPA firm, that our outside CPA firm, and the liaison with the bank. And I set up
Oh,
all of
okay.
our funding, lease and loan programs, fundings for vehicles, machinery, things like that. On top of that, we had an on demand checkbook that I was the sole, I shouldn't say the sole, the two owners were also signers, but I was the sole signer of the on demand checkbook, along with the sole reconciler and the sole overseer of said checkbook.
Wow. Okay. So you had a lot of flexibility with what you did. That's what I'm getting out of that. So,
Correct.
yeah. Okay. So, what happened? Like, walk us through. Like, you show up and you get this job that's pretty good. And how does it unfold from there? Because at a certain point, I guess you would have started to see loopholes and in things in the process that I mean, how does all this manifest? Let's talk about that.
When I showed up, they were a very, and they still are a very large, important manufacturer business in the Green Bay area.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that when I was there, they were hovering right around 300 employees. And in the 3 years I was there, went from like 48, $50 million a year in gross sales to 60 million.
Oh
I
wow.
can only assume now, 10 years later, they're probably well over $100 million a year in
Mm-hmm.
sales.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, they wanted to run it like mom and pop's grocery store. They wanted to use the banks and the leasing options, but they didn't want to turn over any control. And I get that most owners don't.
Okay, wait. Well, now, what does that mean? Let's. So they didn't want to turn over control, you said they wanted to use the banks. I get that, but then how would that have them turn over control, or what? Can you?
Because when you're a bank and you're going to give a company that size a 10 to 14 million dollar line of credit,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of necessary documents. There's a lot of quarterly statements, monthly statements, year-end statements
Mm-hmm.
that the bank needs to make sure that their money is protected from a standpoint of, hey, they borrowed $14 million. Can they pay it back?
Mm-hmm.
My owners wanted to be able to use that money, but also not have anyone scrutinize what purchases they were making. Didn't want anyone to scrutinize that, hey, we're in a recession, but we're going to hire 50 new people. Well, what do you mean your revenue is going down 5%? You're going to hire 50 new people? They wanted to be able to run the business how they saw fit without any outside, I'll say, negative influences, because no one cares about positive influences.
Right.
So there was a lot of, when I got there was a lot of, hey, this is how we do things here.
Mm-hmm.
What the bank doesn't know won't hurt them.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We have an outside CPA firm that used to do the month-end close, but we're hiring you specifically so you can do the month-end close. And as long as they say the balance sheet looks good, that's all they need to be concerned with.
Oh, so they weren't everything wasn't above board, maybe to start with. Would that be a fair?
Yeah, but at the same, I don't want to sound like these guys are just, bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
Tax law by nature of it is there's gray areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And any business owner wants those gray areas to get bigger,
mm-hmm.
and the IRS wants those gray areas to get smaller.
Right.
So, I mean, there was never anything initially like, you'd hear like slush funds or under the table payments or anything like that. But there were things, with regards to, like who got car allowances. Would a sales force get a car allowance? Of course they would. Oh, but we're going to give these other individuals car allowances. And it's like, well, you still got to have some justification there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we had 300 employees, and we probably had 90 company cell phones. I was the accountant. They gave me a cell phone. Why do I need a company cell phone?
Right.
Other than the fact that if you want to call me at midnight on a Saturday, I guess you can.
Right. Right.
So there were just a lot of things like that. That exactly. I mean, they weren't illegal. They weren't 100% by the book, but they wanted to be able to kind of smudge those lines.
Got it. Okay. So you're working there for a while. Like, how does this thing go? What's the, what starts to develop that gets you like, I have an opportunity here. Like how does that all unfold?
Well, within 6 weeks of being there, the job wasn't for me. I should have left.
Mm-hmm.
Flat out, I shouldn't have left. But I had outside influences that had told me what a wonderful company this was. And man, if you ever get into this company, don't screw it up. And when I got there, where I said of maturity, I was the accountant. So, I mean, in the hierarchy of the company, there was legitimately maybe 4 people higher than me, general manager, the assistant general manager, the owners, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was seeing things behind closed doors, kind of like behind the curtain with the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
That it was just like, oh man, is this really what goes on here? Is this really how big business works? And I'll admit that I wasn't mature enough to take that information and just process it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had outside influence telling me that this is a great business. I have firsthand knowledge that, I'm really not on board with everything that's going on here. There was a personality conflict between me and the general manager, from the standpoint of he was put in place after I was hired, shortly after I was hired, and he and I had a few run-ins, and it was the classic, I didn't hire you, so I don't know what you're all about. And my kind of throwback was, well, one of the owners hired me, so if you got any problems, man up and go talk to him.
Got it.
And again, it was just one of those things where, he was a guy that had been in the company 20, 25 years, and God bless him, had risen through the ranks. And here I was, this 33-year-old, smart aleck that all of a sudden is like in the office next to him. And I can see how my personality can rub people the wrong way. And again, that was part of my own maturity there, where I took the feelings he had for me and I had for him on a personal level versus just being, hey, you don't have to get along with everyone you work with.
Right.
You can have your space, I can have my space, kind of thing. So I was doing these things at the behest of the owners, and I was, right or wrong, I was a really good accountant. But I was just dreading going there every day. And I had built up into my mind that, if these guys ever get caught for these things that they're doing, I'm the accountant. I'm going like,
you're going down with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it kind of got to the point where I realized how miserable I was. And I realized in my own mind how miserable I was making everyone around me. And it's like, well, I'm not going to get any better. So I got to somehow make these people happy and happy with me. So, I saw the opportunity, and it was a conscious decision that, I'm going to do this, pardon my French, but, F them. If they want me to do this stuff, I'm going to do some stuff to benefit myself, and especially benefit my family and my friends, because they're putting up with me. They deserve it.
Wow. Okay. So and I think what you really touched on is super. Now, did you know that at the time, or was it just kind of something that unraveled and you unpacked that later? Because that's like some pretty deep thought. At
the time, it was just, I feel terrible and I need to make these people happy. Both owners, my own friends and family. And it's years later with a little bit of therapy and a little bit of self-reflection and a little bit of time in the federal system that you kind of gain the insight. The best way to describe it is no one realizes they're an alcoholic before they stop drinking.
Sure. Right. Okay. Okay.
So I didn't realize I had a problem until everyone knew I had a problem.
Got it. Okay. So you misappropriated funds. Now, what does that really amount to in day-to-day nuts and bolts? Like, did you just set up a fake vendor account and do it that way, or what was it?
Yep. We had a leasing agency that we used out of California. And mind you, I was the only one that had ever met or talked to them. And I had set up an account at a bank locally, and I had started a company with a name that was really close to their name.
Okay.
And since I was in control of this checkbook, I would cut checks to my company that looked reasonably close to that company, and then I would deposit them. The best way to describe it is, again, I was 100% in control of this one checkbook. Even though the general manager was supposed to look at it and reconcile it, I want this to come out the right way. People that get high positions in certain types of companies are really good in that industry. The general manager we had grew up in the manufacturing business. He could tell people and direct people on how to manufacture things. I doubt he had any accounting background. I doubt, and again, and nothing against that, because why would you? The percentage of that is very slim. So you have someone that does not have an accounting background, does not have any accounting experience, being the person that I'm supposed to show my records to. What I mean?
Yeah, you can do anything. He's not going to know.
Right. And that was where part of the germ of the idea was like, man, I could get away with this because who's there to watch? The other flip side of it is that as much as the bank wants everything to be proper, the bank wants the company's business. The bank wants to make interest on that money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you bet.
There's a million CPA firms out there. The CPA wants to make sure that they're right with the IRS and that the company's right with the IRS. But at the end of the day, the customer is just that, a customer of the CPA firm. If you're going to start telling me I can and can't do some things, well, maybe I need to find a CPA firm that's going to let me do the things I want to do. So when it came time for like quarterlies and yearly reviewed financials and that, I'd get an email with a list of, hey, we're going to be out there a week from Tuesday for 3 days. And here's exactly what we want to see. so I had a head start on like, oh, they're going to look at payables.
Uh-huh.
I better make sure that if they look in the right spot, I got my ducks in a row.
Uh-huh.
So there was a little bit of false hope that, man, that no one's ever going to find this.
Uh-huh.
But then what creeps in after you start doing something 126 times over 3 years is I need to bat 1,000. I need to be right every day.
Yeah.
I need to be right every minute. They need to find the needle in the haystack once. Because if they find it once, it doesn't take a genius to find it all. And that's what started to really get to me from a depression standpoint and a remorse standpoint, was that I could win the lottery and give them all their money back. And it's not going to make a difference, because one day I am going to get caught. One day I am going to get found out, because in my mind, the odds were against me. Like, eventually it's just going to happen.
That's a lot of pressure. And I want to get back to that in just a minute, but I'm really curious about how you button things up on your end. Like, did you actually set up a corporation, or did it go to a personal account? So you really were 2 feet in.
Oh yeah, there. Like I can't tell anyone this was an accident. I mean, this was 100% pre-thought, pre-planned, orchestrated. You know it. Yeah, I mean, it was.
Now I'm curious, because I talk to a lot of people who do some things that that maybe aren't great, kind of like what you did, but they do them in a very similar way. So did you do any research on how to do this ahead of time, or was it something you just kind of cooked up and it seemed natural?
To me, it was just, you're an accountant with 14 years experience. It's just, this is how you do it. A, B, and C.
That's it. It just made sense.
It just, I mean, I had worked for everyone from the corporate office of U.S. Bank in downtown Minneapolis. I had a friend who was ran a bank. Was like the executive of a bank, and so I had a little bit of banking knowledge. And I'd hear his war stories when we were golfing about, oh my God, you're not going to believe what this person tried, or this person tried, or we had to fix this. And it just kind of lined up that it's like, man, like, there's not a lot of people watching this.
So you kind of knew the ins and outs of it just a little bit. Yeah.
And I knew it just enough that it gave me a little level of comfort's a terrible word. Confidence.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is that had I known how little, if I would have known even more, I'd have taken way more.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Yeah. So
it's ridiculous how little the controls are in place at banks. So that I learned later.
What would you have done to get more? Can you reveal it? You don't, if you're not comfortable, that's okay. I'm just curious.
No, it's multiple companies.
Oh, really? Just
multiple amount. Yep, multiple amounts of values. Different check amounts.
Now, how did you do that with the check amounts? Because one of the things they always say is, because we've both spoken for the ACFE with all the fraud examiners, is the check amounts. Like, were you doing even amounts, or did you mix it up a little bit, or how did all that? What was your method?
I started off mixing up high, low, kind of all over the board. And I want to say like the last 60, 70 checks I wrote for the same exact amount.
Oh, really? You just gave up? You weren't even trying?
Nope. Wasn't even trying anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Letting it run.
Wow. So let's get back to that whole idea of, like, because you were doing this to fill a hole, like in your emotional health, really.
Yes. 100%.
And so, and maybe you didn't really know that was what was going on at the time, like, because you said you did some reflection on that, but did it work even for a little period of time, or what was because obviously the threat and the fear creeps in, but at first what was your uh like feeling? How, like, take us through that, like how it developed, because it's like what, 4 years? How did it
Yeah.
unravel?
And you can talk to multiple people that have been in my situation.
Mm-hmm.
It all starts the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I can just pay off, it doesn't matter what it is. If I can just pay off my car, if
Mm-hmm.
I can just pay off my college loans, if I can just get enough of the house paid down so we're off of PMI.
Mm-hmm.
The rationalization is I make so much money legally.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can just get a few of these bills taken care of, we're gonna be an easy street.
Uh-huh.
And then it's like, well, that was easy. Why can't I have a new car
Uh-huh.
and have that paid for?
Right.
Why can't we put an addition on the house?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we go on vacation?
Mm-hmm.
And it gets to the point where you then all of a sudden one day realize, like, I'm so deep in this,
Mm-hmm.
there's no point in stopping.
Wow.
You know, I've had guys ask me, like, you know, when do you think you could have stopped and gotten away with it?
Uh-huh.
And I would say somewhere in that $800,000 range.
Oh, really?
You know, given how far apart that was from the end,
Uh-huh.
that if I would have stopped and just let it run its course,
Mm-hmm.
you know, muscled my way through a few more year-end financial reviews,
Mm-hmm.
and then possibly got the mental help I needed,
Mm-hmm.
I still, like, there still would have always been something in the back of my head, like, man, you know, I would have still been sweating bullets for, let's face it, 7 years.
Uh-huh.
Because it's 7 years,
That's
you know,
your
sales,
limit.
and that's someone could audit 2 years back and they go, oh, we don't like this. Let's dig a little deeper. And again, that needle in a haystack. All of a sudden, someone just says, man, look at this.
Uh-huh.
You figure from an overall standpoint, you know, if you can make it through 7 years, but I mean, imagine sitting there for 7 years, wondering if today's the day.
Yeah, with ducks quacking.
Oh, I know, that's everyone's upstairs yelling at me.
Oh, I know. It's okay. I like it. But okay, so it starts out pretty good and then it gets to where you can't stop. And and so what have you bought at this point that in an attempt to fill the hole, like internally, like what was it, just what you think, like boats and vacations, or was there something else? Or
no, that's like talking to some guys that I roomed with in Duluth. You know, they had $125,000 Audis, and they had summer homes, and they had boats.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, we had lots of nice things.
Mm-hmm.
But my nice things, I had the same truck 40 guys at work had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had Sea-Doos that 20 guys at work had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the best way to describe it is that if it was your birthday and I normally bought you a $30 gift, this year your gift was $85.
Mm-hmm.
And if normally we went to the game and everyone took a turn and bought a round of beers, which, you know, at a football game is ridiculous.
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
You know, I would be the guy that, as we walked in, bought the first round. At halftime, made sure I bought another round, and just made sure, hey, does anyone want one more? So there was nothing overly suspicious in my spending or my buying, but you know, going to the store. Hey, should we get some seafood? Yeah, but let's go get the fresh stuff. You know, I mean, it was
just little upgrades.
Yeah, little upgrades. And it was always like, man, the furniture is really getting ratty. Well, let's get some new furniture. Well, there's going to be a sale in 6 weeks. Let's start looking now. You know, and it was just that kind of lifestyle. I mean, not to pat myself on the back, but when I got caught, I mean, 5 or 6 days, I mean, I had given back $150,000, $160,000. I had it.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't just spending. I was ridiculously conservative with it. You know, I had retirement accounts. I had college saving accounts.
Oh, wow.
That, you know, and again, after selling all of our assets and selling our house and doing the whole 9 yards. And again, I do not want this to sound like what a great guy I am, but my victims, and I call them my victims, they received between $400 and $450,000 in cash. They had their insurance, I owe my victims, I think, $300,000 out of 1.2 million. And again, I don't want this to make like, oh, they got away with something, or, oh my God, I'm such a great guy. It's just the facts that most people in my situation, when they get caught, they got $300 to their name.
Yeah.
Because they are spending wildly, and they, I wasn't a gambler. I wasn't a drug user. I didn't participate with paid help, so to speak.
Right.
I was just trying to live a better life.
Wow.
I wasn't living the better life.
No, it wasn't working, because you must have been. I mean, I don't want to even say a downward spiral, but like straight down.
Oh yeah,
like because more wasn't better.
Nope, not at all.
Wow. Okay. So then you're writing yourself these checks. You wrote, what'd you say, 100 and some checks?
Like 126, I think.
126 checks. And then how did it come crashing down? What happened?
I couldn't keep it together mentally anymore. Everyone was worried about me. And I had actually had two separate emotional collapses at work. One was one of the owners happened to walk into my office, and I was literally sitting at my desk sobbing uncontrollably.
Oh, wow.
Like the pressure was just getting so much.
Yeah.
And they were overall good guys. And they were worried not only about my health, but they were also worried about like, hey, this is a guy that knows a lot about us and is our liaison with the bank. Like, we got to make sure this guy is sane. Because he has a lot of responsibility. So they put me into some employer paid therapy.
Okay.
Which only increased my issues, because you're supposed to be able to tell a therapist anything.
Right.
Well, I can't tell them the real reason I'm there.
Oh man.
So I'm making up even more lies to cover the lies I've already started. And my owners were getting extremely nervous because they're like, what's this guy going to do? And in hindsight, they were plotting to get rid of me.
Oh,
plotting's a bad term, because there's like I was
planning.
Planning. And while I was at one of these meetings, I had a personal laptop that was at work that they actually had. They downloaded the information off of it.
Off your personal laptop.
Yep. And I think the reason they did it was not because of anything overly evil or anything like that. But I think their worried was, man, if we cut this guy loose, does he have any of our business information on that computer?
Oh, so did they do it? Well, did you know it, or?
Oh God, no.
No. So they just kind of picked it up off your desk and then put it back.
Yep. While I was at one of these, while I was at one of these meetings. So then, we're having a meeting one day, and I just feel like everyone in the room is trying to pick a fight with me. And like the owner's a general manager, and everyone's just like they've been wonderful up until this point, and now all of a sudden it's like everyone is yelling at me, and it's going weird. And I finally looked at one of the owners and I said, "Are you trying to get me to quit?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Everyone's like ganging up on me here." I said, "Do you want me to quit?" And he goes, "I don't want you here anymore. I just want you to go get out of here." And I went, "Okay." And I literally grabbed my stuff and I walked out of the building. Right then and there, I had a 60-day clock in my head. I said, if no one contacts me in 60 days, either they found out and don't care, which obviously is not the case. They didn't look, they don't care, they're just moving on. I was served papers, I believe, 24 days later.
Oh boy. So they got in, they figured it all out.
Yeah. And like I said, if there's I only have one mean thought in my head from the whole situation is I always wanted to be a fly on the wall when the IT guy came to them and said, "We found this. Do you want to look at it?"
Yeah.
And again, not to cause them any more pain, but I just always wanted to know, like, what was that scene like? Was it just somber, or desks thrown, like, how bad was it?
So you never heard?
No,
Mhm.
I was served papers, and then that started. It didn't start the healing process then,
Uh-huh.
but it leveled me out for the first time in 3 years
Oh,
because
really?
because I knew right then and there it couldn't get any worse.
Uh-huh.
Like this is as bad as it's ever going to get.
Uh-huh.
Now we got to figure out how we get to the finish line, and that was always my phrase to all the people I dealt with, from lawyers and the FBI and the IRS,
Mm-hmm.
was how do we get to the finish line?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like that was gut wrenching, that was soul searching. But if that wouldn't have happened, I honestly would not be here today, because it was getting to the point that there were thoughts and plans starting
Mm-hmm.
to be made.
God, oh my gosh, that's a dark place to be, like, for sure. So, what did your wife? How did she take all this?
Not well.
I wouldn't think so.
100% oblivious to what was happening,
Mm-hmm.
100% oblivious to what was going on. Um, she immediately realized 90% of probably what I had told her over the previous few years was complete lies.
What now? What'd you tell her? What were you telling
Um, I made a good living.
her? Mm-hmm.
You know, we always had extra money to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Most of the time, the people that I was dealing with gave me the reason why I had money.
Mm-hmm.
And of all things, when I was younger, I was a nationally ranked racquetball player, and I played the professional tour. When everyone hears professional athlete, they're like, "Oh, like, we know you didn't make NBA or NFL money, but you must have did all right."
Yeah,
So,
well, I'll tell you, I was a professional athlete as well. There's no better way to go broke sometimes.
exactly, exactly. But people thought I made money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, Taking a tragedy and turning it into a reality. My
Mm-hmm.
mother passed away in 2004.
Uh-huh.
My mother was a classic Northeast Wisconsin person that got a job at one of the paper mills right out of high school,
Mm-hmm.
worked there for 30 years.
Yeah.
All of those people retire with a boatload of money in their savings, and
Mm-hmm.
rightfully so.
Yeah, and coffee cans under the mattress and the whole
Yep.
bit. Yeah,
And
yeah.
everyone just assumed that I got a boatload of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't. My stepdad did.
Oh.
So, but I got a little bit. And sadly, the story always was to my wife was, "Hey, can we afford this? Hey, the market's been doing really good. My mom's name was Terry. I'll get a little bit of Terry's money.
Uh-huh.
It'll be fine."
Uh-huh.
That
Oh,
was
wow. Okay. So as always,
so.
it'll be fine.
Yeah, and there was always a plausible explanation
Mm-hmm.
for what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So
And
then,
again, it wasn't like we were showing up like, "Hey, by the way, we're gonna go buy a BMW on Saturday." It was
right,
just,
right,
"Hey, we're having a kid. Maybe we should get an SUV."
right.
You know,
Huh. Okay. So there's a knock at the door. Here come the papers. And you're there. Is your wife there? Like, how does all that go down?
they actually served the papers to her. I got home after.
Oh my goodness.
Yes,
So how did that go?
she had read it, and I
Mm-hmm.
got home, and she said, "You need to read this," and I already knew what it was,
Mm-hmm.
and I read it, and based on the detail that was there, I was like, "There's no way they pulled this together on their own in 3 weeks."
Mm-hmm.
So my first thought was, how did they get my information?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, "Oh, that doesn't matter right now. We'll
Mm-hmm.
worry about that later."
Right.
And she just asked me if what the documents said were true. And I said, I said, there's a little liberty here and there, but I said, these are about 95, 96% true.
Oh.
And that was a really long night.
Yeah, I bet so. So then you end up in court, I guess. Or so did you have a public defender? Did you have your own lawyer? Or did you just say, "Well, I'm just gonna handle this myself"? Like,
No, if there's one thing I learned, is that they don't care where the money comes from. If you have money, they're going to make you spend it for your own defense.
mm,
So I had to give a financial disclosure like within a week,
mm-hmm.
and they earmarked a fair amount of money that my victim should have gotten back. They said, "This is for your lawyers."
Oh, wow. So the
And
government took some for like legal fees?
Oh no, I had to hire my
No.
own lawyers,
Oh, yeah, your own lawyer.
but they did.
Okay.
But they took the money and put it in a trust and said, "Here's how much money we're going to give you for a legal defense."
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So they gave you a little bit of a bone there. So
Well,
I mean,
they gave the
just a
lawyers a
tiny
little bit
one.
of they gave the lawyers a little bit of a bone because
Right.
the stuff is so cut and dry that
Mhm.
they don't need to file anything, and you don't need a lawyer to protect your rights.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So then, you went to court, and what you just go in and say guilty,
Yep.
and that was
I
that. So it was short.
I met with the investigator and the prosecuting attorney for the FBI in the district of Northeast District,
Mhm.
and I went there with my lawyer, and I said, guys, literally, I walked in, I introduced myself, we shook hands. I said, sad to say, it's not great to meet you, but here I am. How do I get to the finish line?
Mhm.
That was the first time I used that. And the guy said, we're going to sit down. We're going to ask you some questions and we want the answers to them.
Mhm.
Okay, let's go.
Mhm.
And they're like, at any time, if you want to step out and talk to your lawyer, feel free. I said, nope, that won't be necessary. I said, let's do this. And he was there with me the whole time. And we just went from A, B, C, and D. And I want to say I was there, wasn't very long, maybe an hour, hour and a half.
Oh, that's it.
And it was kind of the question of we may want to talk to you again. And I said, I need a half hour notice to get here.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying they were surprised
Mhm.
at how forthcoming I was, but at the same time, that's not exactly what they're used to.
Right.
And my guy, his name was Vince, knew them well, and he's just like, you're just gonna have to take my oath as a lawyer, defender of law, that this guy's gonna help you in any way, and there won't be any shenanigans.
Mhm.
There wasn't.
Wow. So then, how long did they give you before you had to show up to jail?
Too long. I was at the end. I was begging to go because
Really, just get it over.
Yep. Sadly, it takes a long time in our judicial processes to get anything moving. So it took whiles for the criminal stuff to even get going. I don't think I even went to a criminal court till January, February the following year. And I reported in November.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I mean,
wow, that is a long time.
In my first meeting with the judge, my lawyer stood up and said, I don't remember exactly how it went, but it was like, it was a preliminary hearing. And we were like, nope, Ryan's ready to move to the next phase. He's here to plead guilty. Like, we're ready to go to sentencing, Your Honor. I mean, that's literally what it was. And it still took too long.
Wow. Because you have to sit and stew, and I mean, that's crazy. So did it give you any time to get, I don't know, affairs in order or anything like that? Or
and again, I wasn't a threat to myself. I wasn't a threat to society. They kind of, best way to describe it is that they kind of give you that little like, hey, we could come get you tomorrow if we want to.
Yeah.
So you better not do anything. You better not go anywhere, and you better get your stuff taken care of, because when we come and get you, we're coming. And I mean, I didn't have much to get taken care of. I mean, I had bag of clothes and a couple pairs of shoes. That was about it. But it got to the point where it was like I was crying to my lawyer, like, we gotta speed this up. Like,
oh, wow.
I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to go, and we need to, because no matter when you start, that amount of time is going to be there.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So
wow.
It was weird.
So then once you got there, once you got to prison, I guess, what goes on? Like, because you've definitely done some soul searching, but what else did you have the opportunity to do? Like did it change you? Tell us about that.
It honestly brought me back to the person I used to be. I'm a bit of a talker. I'm an outgoing guy. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. my wife knows this wholeheartedly, that if I'm quiet, something's wrong.
Okay.
And it got me, and you go there very hesitant because you hear all the horror stories
Yeah.
and you've seen all the movies,
Yeah.
and you show up and it's just a bunch of dudes hanging out.
That's it.
And it's, yep, and it's like you find your niche of, all right, I'm gonna hang out with these guys, I'm gonna avoid those guys.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna do everything I can to try to make the hours go faster.
Uh-huh.
And most of all, I'm gonna try not to get comfortable. I don't want to be comfortable here.
Oh, okay.
I don't, because there's guys that get comfortable, and it's like, hey, when you going? Oh, I don't know. Like, really? Yeah, I don't know when I go home. I'm good. Like that.
Oh, wow.
That was my fear. Like, I
Uh-huh.
do not want to get comfortable. I didn't want to feel that I was in danger. I didn't want to feel that, like, uh the world was closing in around me, but like I didn't want to feel comfortable.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, for 2 years, the place I went to, you had to have a job on site. So I shoveled snow, I cut grass. I did lots of stuff I don't normally do. Like, I played basketball.
Uh-huh.
I started, walking and running around the track. I mean, it was just anything you can do to make that hour go faster.
Uh-huh. Wow. So
So I
then
did.
what was so all the like depression, self-hatred, that kind of stuff, did that just magically go away, or was there something that you consciously did to get yourself back on target?
I had, again, once everything was found out, it wasn't the therapist that the company was paying for, but I saw another therapist. It was a court appointed one.
Mm-hmm.
And he had determined, and I'll give it with a grain of salt, depending on if you believe that stuff or not,
Sure.
that the issues I was having was something that I had probably been suffering for a very long time, like possibly even late teens.
Huh.
But there were certain lifestyle points that I had chosen that naturally counteract it. One of the number one things to counter depression is physical activity.
Mm-hmm.
I told you I played, semi-professional racquetball.
Yeah.
I was a gym rat. I went to the club 3-4 hours, 7 days a week,
Uh-huh.
around my jobs, things like that. There were certain lifestyle changes that as you get older, you stop doing. And this added to the natural stress I already had,
Mm-hmm.
the natural anxiety I usually had. And then you add that to just the anxiety and the stress of just being a grown adult, taking care of children.
Yeah. Huh.
And my activity level went down to nothing.
Uh-huh.
And what it really did is it helped me find the trigger points, and it helped me find the, like, oh, it's starting. We need to do something right now because it's starting.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's like I said, like if I'm being overly quiet, everyone around me knows something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And like, whether you want, like, I've heard this, whether you want to tell me what's wrong or not, you need to do something to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's, go play catch with the kids, or go for a walk, or cook. Don't just sit there and stare at the TV. Don't just fall into that dungeon again.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that I have greatly internally tried to figure out what triggers those moments, and then to combat them before it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I still see it happening. Like, oh, this is really bothering me.
Mm-hmm.
I need to do something about it.
Right. So you're more proactive now.
Yes, I'm much more proactive. And again, the going to a place like Duluth and sitting in a room with 10 other guys that did the same exact thing you did, the same exact way, with the same exact feelings. It's like I could hear other people tell their stories, and it would be like, oh yeah, when did this happen? Oh, this happened to me in January. Like it's ridiculous how similar it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you realize that, man, like, it's just me being stupid.
Huh.
It's not just me.
Right. Now, would you consider yourself a better person now?
Now, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I would not consider myself a better person per se of than when I was 20. I consider myself a better person than when I was performing my crime.
Okay.
But
Interesting.
it's not like I've become a better person than I've ever been.
Okay. Okay.
I'm no longer the bad person. If that
Okay.
makes sense.
Okay. That's pretty good. Um, little steps, right? So
Yeah.
then, would you do it again? Like looking back.
Oh, I mean, no. I mean, two reasons.
Mm-hmm.
A, I wouldn't survive that depth anymore.
Mm-hmm.
B, um, the other joke is, they gave me 4 years this time. The next time it's gonna be 142
Yeah.
because the statutes
Oh my gosh.
said what I did, I could have gotten 142 years.
Wow. Okay.
Now again, no one, you know, the joke is murderers don't get that much.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was no fear that, oh man, they could do that. But 10 years is bad,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, no, there's no, I mean, I look both ways and make sure my feet are in the crosswalk.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Wow.
it's that ingrained in me now.
Wow. So then, would what would your advice be to someone who may be walking down your old path?
Wherever you are, leave that place right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whatever you think you can do, tell someone how you can do it. I had opportunities while I was doing it well before I was uh, at my lowest point
Mm-hmm.
and on the verge of being caught, where I have some solid friends that if I would have told them, man, you're not going to believe what I've been doing for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
They never would have left my side, but they never would have condoned it.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have been like, okay, who do we need to talk to once again to get to the finish line? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we gotta stop this right now. Um, I don't know. I was so high strung and I was so worried about affecting other people, even though in retrospect I affected everyone,
Mm-hmm.
that I don't think I could have did that because I wouldn't have wanted to put that burden on somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But I wish I would have. There's four people in my mind that through thick and thin would have been like, okay, we're gonna get through, like we're gonna get through this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, first of all, you need to stop. Second of all, we need to call a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Thirdly, we need to figure out how we can, there's no correcting the situation. How can we get out of this situation?
Mm-hmm.
And when I've done these speakings in front of people before, I mean, it's in front of a room of finance and accounting people.
Right.
And I say to them, I'm like, every one of you knows there is a weakness where you work.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you can take advantage of that weakness or not is beside the point. You know there's a weakness there.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever feel that you're interested in that weakness, you need to talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want that to seem like preachy.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because I don't want to have them go through what, and forget me being, that's too selfish. I don't want them to put their friends and family through what I put my friends and family through.
Mm-hmm.
Because the truth of the matter is I survived it. And I don't want to say I wear it like a badge of honor because I was very close to a point where there wasn't an option for survival anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see anyone get that to there again. Because it selfishly, it's too much pain on me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here's someone that I could have helped. Where you're like, you don't know who that person is. No, I know who that person is because that person's right here. I could have helped that person.
Right.
And that's kind of, so like I said, if you know the weakness, it's one thing to know the weakness. It's another thing to start thinking about the weakness. If you know that weakness, you got to talk to someone.
Now, what are you doing now to help people? Because you're speaking, right? What else are you doing?
I am, I've become that universal a volunteer dad. You know, I'm doing the things that make me and my family happy. And when I have an opportunity, like with you, John Gill at the ACFE, you know,
yeah.
I'm still willing to sit down and talk. And don't get me wrong, it's still therapeutic for me. But I kind of have a little bit of the two-facedness that, like, you know, I don't want to just go out and start preaching to people. Like, you're going to learn from my mistakes. You know, you don't have the fortitude to do what I did wrong. So I just kind of pick and choose. And if I can kind of be that big brother to somebody, or if I can, you know, work comes to me and like, hey, we're thinking about doing this. You see a bad idea in that? And I'll can like, yeah, here's why it's a bad idea. You know, because the people I work for, they are 100% aware. Like, full disclosure. I have friends now that I have made since I've been home. There's some that absolutely know, and there's some I think might know, and there's some I know don't know. But it's gotten to the point where it's been so long, again, the preachiness. I'm past the point where it's like, hey, I have to tell you what I did and hope you still like me. You know, it's kind of like the, hey, it is what it is. If you find out about it and it bothers you, let's talk it out. You think you need to end the relationship? I 100% understand. Can go with your decision.
Right.
But I mean, it's been, this September will be 10 years.
Oh,
so,
boy.
I mean, like,
yeah.
I've gotten to the point where it's like, I don't want to say move on, because moving on means you're forgetting about it, but it's past the point of encompassing my life.
Got it. Wow. Now, how can people get a hold of you? Either to speak or to maybe help them just personally, like if they see
my email is always available.
What is that email? Just so everybody
it's my name, RYANHOMA @gmail.com.
There it is. Okay. So if anybody needs to get a hold of them, you know how to do it now. So any parting words, last tips for anyone? Any final thoughts?
No, I mean, like I said, the turnaround I've had not only in my personal and professional life, like I wake up every day and I'm happy to be here. I am happy, as ridiculous as it sounds, to just live a normal life. And I mean, it's most days when I can't sleep, it's because I still have too much energy. And not that I'm just this like guy that's going to move mountains, but the depths that I was at, you know, I am still happy, and I'm still purposely making sure I'm not there again.
Right.
And I said, it's just, you know, not that I don't have bad days, not that there aren't days on end where it's just like, oh man, I don't feel it. You know, I just want to lay around and do nothing. But like I said, I'm back to the guy that I was in my 20s, when I was just that happy, loud, slightly obnoxious guy that everyone just kind of like, you know, hung out with.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm glad that you made the turn back to like just being happy. Because you can't put a price on that. So, and I'm really psyched that you just shared your story in the depth that you did. And I'm hoping people will reach out to you for ideas when they may feel low, or you know, to help their company. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So thank you for coming on Fraud Busting.
Not a problem. Thank you.